Hello everyone, I'm Sarthak and today we'll try to see all the possible variations of Stafford Gambit. I have been playing Stafford Gambit for a while now and I have taught this concept in the classes and the kids have loved it. So I thought why not just make a video out of it and try to share it with all the audience out there. So yeah, let's go. Stafford begins with e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. We go for the Petrov defense, and it is here when after knight takes in the main line of Petrov, it works by d6, knight goes back, then we take d3, we come back, and then d4 and then d5 happens. Okay, but we don't want to go for those kind of variations. Stafford Gambit starts with knight c6, and after knight c6, knight takes, pawn takes, and here we have clearly gambited a pawn on e5. The thing is, here white has a lot many choices to make after pawn d3, bishop c5, and now we enter the variations one by one. We start with the variation of bishop g5. Now this is what I call it as the beginner's mistake, because the point is you should never play bishop g5. The thing is, if you remember the legal trap, how does it work when we play as white? The same idea works right now. We go knight takes e4 pawn, bishop takes queen, bishop takes pawn check, king e2, bishop g4 checkmate. Suppose after bishop g5 and knight takes pawn, even if white decides to go back, we go bishop into bishop, pawn takes, and now the diagonal has been exposed, so we bring in the queen, queen h4 check. Pawn has to stop because after king e2 we go queen f2 checkmate. After pawn g3 we simply go by knight g3, creating a discovered attack in the next move, and yeah, so this is clearly winning. So now let's try to understand the c3 variation. Here after bishop g5, white now plans the move pawn to c3. The idea is usually white tries to control d4 and white plans to move d4, but here we don't want to give white any chances, so we go directly knight takes pawn. The thing is, you can never ever take the knight. The point is, my queen is trying to attack the queen, white's king is the defender, and we know something like deflecting the defender, so we go bishop takes pawn check. Now king cannot take the bishop because black takes the queen. King has to go on e2 only move, and again we try to create a skewer and we win the queen eventually. Let's go back a bit. So after c3 and knight takes, here there are a lot many options to go for. You can go by pawn to d4 and queen to e2. I'll try to cover both of them. Suppose if pawn d4 happens, we go by bishop to d6, bringing the bishop just back. Queen e2, now we just castle. Now queen cannot take because we go rook to e8 and we try to pin the queen. After knight takes pawn, white tries queen e2 directly. Now this is more fun here because now we don't have to bring the knight back because it's pinned. We cannot actually, nor we can go for this, because this time if we try to castle directly, white is threatening not the queen takes knight move, not this. Actually white is threatening pawn takes knight. So here we have to be very active. Okay, we have to be attacking, we have to go in the attack mode. So we go bishop takes pawn check, king has to move on d1, no other options, so king goes d1. And now you must understand that this pawn is under pin, which earlier the option was available for white for pawn takes knight, is now we have kind of frozen the pawn. Okay, so now we go f5 because now queen takes knight is also not possible, pawn takes knight is also not possible. Bishop to d2, trying to unpin the pawn, and now we castle. Now it's a very natural question. Okay, why am I just giving a free knight now? Suppose it takes, okay, and we take, my rook is getting activated, and in the next move black is having a very strong threat of pawn going to e3 because the bishop is under pin. I mean, if I try to continue this position, suppose, yeah, just to show you, if knight goes to a3, we go pawn e3, the bishop is gone. Now if there is another variation of queen takes pawn, so again it's very nice. We go bishop f5, tempo on the queen, queen check, king h8, king goes to c1, and now we go queen d7, just allowing the rook to come to d8, and black has all the pieces participating in the game right from the beginning. If you try to compare the pieces, if you try to specifically compare the bishops with white's bishop, the rooks with white's rook, you can understand that even though black is right now down a minor piece, it doesn't even matter much, because the activity of black's pieces compared to the activity of white's pieces, it's a very huge difference. Okay, white's pieces are just sitting in the park and just enjoying the show. On the other hand, black pieces are trying to go and trying to finish the king. All right, so here, just to continue, bishop e2, we bring up a last piece in the game. And now, yeah, bishop g5 is a kind of going away from the square, because actually, if I just show you, white is trying to avoid bishop takes knight, if king takes or rook takes, and then queen takes bishop. So the way white is trying to think is that, okay, why not just move the bishop with a counter attack? Makes sense. We go queen to e8. Now what is this crazy idea? If bishop takes rook, and now we have seen something called as something like a double bishop checkmate. Yeah, like both the bishops cover the diagonals and it becomes a checkmate. Only this time we try to go with the queen. And now after knight goes here, we have to just understand that, you know, this knight will be under pin, and you have to just try to put extra pressure. So we go rook takes bishop now. Again, the pressure is getting built up. Rook to d1, only move possibly. And now we just have to attack one more time. And I cannot think of any other piece apart from this guy. So we go bishop to e1. A rook cannot take, obviously, because we go here checkmate. So it is at this position that, okay, the opponent can resign now, because it's already over. Okay, so here it's a very nice easy way to calculate that this becomes a checkmate. So this was all about the c3 variation. Now there's one more kind of interesting variation which I found while I was trying to analyze the opening, which is h3, pawn to h3 right away. Now the idea behind pawn to h3 is that in some lines that I'll be showing you in the next slide, that knight tries to jump on g4 to create some attack over here, and that's why white tries to stop it. We say fine, but the threat of queen takes queen, if the king is not there and if the d pawn is not there, still remains. So we directly jump on with bishop check, king takes, knight takes pawn. Pawn cannot take because the deflection of the defender has already been done. So pawn is actually under pin. And now let's if I go here in this position after h3, the best move of the computer is not bishop takes pawn check, okay, but it is one of the most practical choices I found, and I have played this a couple of times against 2000 plus rated players on Chess, and I was able to trick them very nicely. Because suppose if I just try to discuss it without any computer analysis or something, if bishop takes pawn check happens and king takes and knight e4 check, if you try to think logically, there are not many good moves for the king. Okay, suppose if king goes back to g1, now white is trying to save the king, but black can force a perpetual draw by going queen to d4 check, king h2, queen e5 check, king g1, and then again black goes queen d4 check. Suppose if white tries to go all the way back, now we have a checkmate coming. Queen to h4 check, king e2, and queen to f2 checkmate. If king tries to go to, say, any other option is like f3 and probably e2. So if king goes to e2, we go knight g3, forking the king and the rook. And if king tries to go to f3, now this is actually the best move where white can reply. Okay, after this particular move order, computer shows that white is clearly better. But again, that's not the point I'm trying to make here. I'm trying to show you guys that how practical chess works. Okay, because when you start playing chess, you're not having any helping hand. There's no one telling you from from outside the game that, okay, white is better here. it looks like nobody wants their king to be in the center, so much close to the center. Okay, so black king is already chilling, but cannot say the same thing for whites. Why we are forcing them to make the moves? These are not very comfortable moves what we are forcing white to do. So here the move continues by I guess when I was playing the same, I reached this particular position and I started with queen f6 check. My opponent replied with bishop f4, which is in fact the best move, and I played pawn g5, which is again the best move. Now I'll give you guys 5 to 10 seconds here, and you should think, because I'm threatening queen takes f4 check. How should white respond? So you can pause the video and try to again, because I'll be continuing the video now. The thing is, if you are unable to find the best move, this is exactly the point I'm trying to make, because in a tense situation, okay, when you play the game of chess, it's very hard to find the best moves. The best move is in fact pawn takes knight. In my game, my opponent made a mistake of playing bishop e2, and then I kind of went on to win the game. Here, pawn takes knight is the best move, and the game will continue by queen f4 check. Suppose if they try to go back with the king, okay, now we can again go for the same idea, and now if takes happen, the game will continue. Okay, we have many continuations like queen e4 check. If you try to go again here, like I can go for queen f5 check. If queen goes to f3, we have queen c2 check. Okay, and white is kind of trying to save the king here and there, and black is just trying to win material. So in this position, the threat will be that, okay, after you go here, I take, and this is where I think both the sides will be kind of fine, but black will be slightly better because black is trying to threaten rook. If I go back, in this particular variation, after bishop f4, g5, d takes knight, okay, d takes e4, queen takes, king goes back, we reach the same situation, and after a couple of checks, in this position, computer shows that white is at least 1.5 to 1.8, but again, I'm talking about practical chess here. It's completely playable situation for black, provided, again I say provided, that white reaches all the best moves, white finds all the best moves, and white reaches this exact same position, which is in fact very hard, especially in 10 plus 5s, 10 plus 0s, or maybe 5 plus 3. Okay, so I've already included the variation of bishop g5. This time I'll be trying to talk about bishop to e3, which looks like a very possible choice. So in this line of continuation, we go by bishop takes, pawn takes, knight g4, attacking the pawn, and white tries to reply by queen f3. Let's see. Okay, and here we have to just start understanding that, okay, there is a small cluster over here, and this is slightly backward, and we have to just put pressure over there. So we go by queen to g5. Now there are many good moves here for white, but suppose if you try to objectively defend the pawn, black has a very nice idea of knight takes pawn, rook takes, queen e5, creating a fork here, and we are creating kind of a forking net here, not the mating net but a forking net, because if you try to save the rook somewhere, we go queen b2 and I eventually win the rook. Okay, something like this. Talking about practical chess, the point I'm trying to make here, I'll again give you guys in this particular position 10 seconds, pause the video, try to find the best move for white. If you are able to find the best move here, then very congratulations for you, because like you're kind of focusing very nicely, okay, and you have found the best move. But for most of the audience, it's my personal experience, because I have taught this particular position to many students, and it's from personal experience I'm sharing that it's very hard to find the best move for white. So to those who want to watch it, the best move for white is actually queen to f4, because now knight takes e3 is not possible because queen is hanging, and if after queen takes queen, pawn takes, white is clearly better, slightly better. So this was about the bishop e3 variation. Okay, so now we reach the final variation, which is actually the main line of Stafford, which starts with bishop e2. Now after bishop e2, there are many good ways to continue. You can continue by knight to g4, something like, suppose if I go with knight g4, bishop takes, queen h4, queen f3, and we continue by bishop g4, which is kind of fine. Okay, but I don't want to go for those kind of lines. I want to kind of create some checkmating chances for black. So we can start by h5. Now after h5, if someone tries to just play something like castles, let's say, so now I want to go for queen d6. And now my threat is I want to go knight g4 and I want to checkmate you if you try to play h3. We know that this bishop is very powerful, which pins the pawn, and suppose if this pawn is not over there, we have a move like queen to g3 with a check bonus. So what we do is bishop takes pawn, pawn takes bishop, queen to g3, and it's already getting finished, all finished. It's a checkmate. It's a very forcing checkmate. You cannot stop it. And okay, now we have queen g3, he goes here, we have knight g4 coming. It's game over already. Let's stop this. So now white realizes that okay, this bishop is way too powerful and you have to kind of stop it, and the only way you can stop it is by playing, not castling, is by actually playing the move of the R, which is pawn to c3. Now what's the idea behind pawn to c3? The idea behind pawn to c3 is that white tries to prepare pawn to d4, and now white's idea is getting stronger and stronger. White is saying, you know what, I want to close down the bishop. I want to come on to your bishop and I want to close the diagonal of the bishop. Sounds familiar. So we have to try to anticipate, and we have to also appreciate white at the same time. We go back, bishop to b6, and here in this position, if they try to castle, we try to go for queen d6, and they say, you know what, I can still not play d4 because my e4 pawn will be hanging, so why not just play bishop f3 for a moment? I say fine, I want to go knight g4 anyways. They say, you know what, d4 is not possible anymore, because I say again, hello to Mr. King. So now they play something like pawn g3, and this time, because the pawn is on h2, I cannot just play queen g3. That's why you should not memorize chess. You should try to understand the fundamentals of it. So now I know that okay, I have to remove this pawn, so I can play something like h5, bishop takes knight, if pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and queen g3 checkmate. If there is any other idea, you have to just understand that okay, this is completely finished, this is completely over. Suppose if something like bishop f4, and bishop f4 is kind of a decent idea. Now here we have to just slide away with queen g6, and again this is fairly comfortable position. Suppose something like takes, probably if it takes, we try to go for takes. Yeah, again completely winning position. Suppose if it tries to go away somewhere, and I mean, okay, you have this, you have that. How do you stop it? I don't know this. Okay, so with that said, I'll try to stop here. I hope you liked the video. I won't ask you to kind of like the video, share it, and subscribe, because I know you would, and you guys are a good audience. So I hope you had fun, because I did, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.